October 14th, 1943. Dawn over the English countryside. The air is frozen, the runways slick with dew. Rows of silver bombers stand ready under the dim light. Boeing B-17 flying fortresses, engines humming like distant thunder. Ground crews move between them, silent, focused. Everyone knows what today is. Schweinfurt, the ball-bearing factories, the most heavily defended target in Germany. Captain Daniel Reed pulls his flight jacket tighter, breath misting in the cold. His bomber, serial number 423189, call sign Hell's Angel, waits at the front of the line. Its nose art shows a grinning angel with scorched wings. Someone painted it the night before with trembling hands. Reed climbs the ladder and steps into the cockpit. The smell of oil, metal, and fear fills the air. "Morning, Skipper," says his co-pilot, Lieutenant Harris, already checking gauges. "Morning. Let's get her warmed up." Behind them, the crew moves to their stations. Sergeant Lawson in the tail, O'Brien at the top turret, Cole and Davis at the waist guns, Lieutenant Adams at the navigator's desk. 8 men who've flown together long enough to read each other's thoughts. None of them say it aloud, but everyone knows the odds. 1 in 3 won't make it back. The briefing earlier had been brutal. No escorts beyond Aachen. The P-47 Thunderbolts don't have the range, and the new Mustangs aren't ready yet. Once they cross the Rhine, they'll be on their own. 291 bombers, nearly 3,000 men, flying deep into the Reich without protection. Reed's pencil had snapped in his hand when the target appeared on the map. Schweinfurt, the heart of Germany's aircraft industry. And over it, Luftwaffe airfields as dense as raindrops on glass. "Sir," someone had asked, "how many fighters are we expecting?" The mission commander's answer was simple. "All of them." At 0830 hours, the first formation lifts from the runway. Engines roar in perfect rhythm, a wave of sound that shakes the earth. Hell's Angel rolls down the strip, its 4 right cyclones thundering. The nose lifts, the ground falls away, and England shrinks beneath a sea of clouds. They climb to 25,000 feet. The sun rises behind them, turning the sky gold. Frost forms on the inside of the glass. Oxygen masks hiss quietly. No one speaks. Over the channel, condensation trails mark their path. Thin white lines stretching east like threads of fate. Below them, the sea glimmers calm and indifferent. At 0945, they cross the Dutch coast. That's when the first flak bursts appear, black flowers blooming in the sky. The formation tightens. Reed grips the yoke, eyes scanning for fighters. "Radio chatter from lead," Harris says. "They've spotted contacts, lots of them." "How many?" "Too many." Moments later, the horizon erupts. Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs climb through the sun, tiny black dots swelling into shapes with teeth. Over 300 German fighters scramble to intercept. Reed watches them close in, their contrails weaving like snakes across the sky. "All guns ready," he shouts. The first wave dives straight through the formation. Tracers rip across the sky, a storm of fire. A fortress ahead takes a hit. Its left wing shears off. 12 tons of metal tumble end over end through the clouds. No parachutes. Hell's Angel shakes violently. Glass explodes across the cockpit. "Number 3 engines hit," Harris yells. "Feather it," Reed shouts back, pulling the yoke hard left to stay in formation. Flak bursts all around them, chunks of metal pinging against the fuselage. The radio crackles with half screams, half static. "Tailgun's gone! We lost Red 5! Hold the line! Hold the line!" The sky turns into a furnace. Inside Hell's Angel, men fight for their lives in a world of noise. The waist gunners fire until their barrels glow red. Shell casings rain across the floor. The smell of gunpowder fills the fuselage. O'Brien, the top turret gunner, calls out targets like a machine. "2 at 3 o'clock, diving fast!" His twin 50 caliber guns roar. A Messerschmitt disintegrates in flame, trailing smoke past the cockpit. "Nice shot!" Harris shouts, but O'Brien doesn't answer. A round has torn through the turret's glass, catching him in the shoulder. Reed glances back, eyes burning. "Is he alive?" A voice crackles through the intercom, weak but steady. "Still firing, sir." 2 hours in, the formation is half destroyed. 20 bombers gone, maybe more. Still, the survivors press on. Schweinfurt is ahead. Reed's eyes sting from the smoke. "Navigator, how far to target?" 30 minutes. He nods. "We'll make it." The radio operator mutters a prayer under his breath. The waist gunners reload. In the tail, Lawson wipes blood from his hands and keeps scanning the clouds. A new formation of Focke-Wulfs approaches head-on. Reed steadies the plane. Hold tight! They fly straight into the storm. By the time they reach the target, Hell's Angel is a wreck of bullet holes and scorched metal. The bomb bay doors jam halfway, then shutter open. Reed releases the payload. 12 500-pound bombs tumbling toward the black smoke below. The city erupts. Bombs away, Adams calls, voice hoarse. Reed exhales. Turn us home! Behind them, the horizon is on fire. The fortress banks west, limping, engines coughing, holes stitched across every surface. They've done it. But ahead lies 500 miles of open sky, and the enemy isn't finished yet. The intercom crackles once more, quiet, steady. Skipper? Lawson's voice from the tail. Go ahead. They're coming back, all of them. Reed looks over his shoulder at the endless sky filled with smoke and contrails. He adjusts his oxygen mask, jaw tightening. Then let's show them, he says, why they call it a fortress. And with that, Hell's Angel dives back into the fire. The formation stretches thin over Germany. 40,000 feet below, the earth is a gray blur of clouds and fire. Above, the contrails of the B-17s twist together like tangled ropes, marking the path of men who have flown too far to turn back. Captain Daniel Reed wipes frost from the glass with his glove. Navigator, he calls, confirm heading. Still on course for Schweinfurt, Adams replies, his voice shaking. Good, Reed says. Let's finish this. But even as he says it, he sees them. Tiny black specks on the horizon, growing larger with every heartbeat. Dozens at first, then hundreds. A wave of movement rising through the sunlight. They're here, Harris whispers. The first Messerschmitts strike from above. Sunlight flashes off their wings as they dive, guns blazing. The radio bursts into chaos. Bandits, high 11! Break formation, no, hold tight! God help us, there's hundreds of them! Reed grips the yoke. Keep it together. Gunners fire at will. The air erupts. Tracers slice past the cockpit, streaks of orange light against blue sky. O'Brien's turret guns roar overhead, the vibration rattling the entire frame. In the waist compartment, Cole and Davis fire until the floor is ankle-deep in brass shells. The fortress feels alive, growling, kicking, answering every hit with thunder. Tailgun, report, Reed yells. Lawson's voice crackles through the intercom. 2 down already, Skipper. 3 more circling. Keep them off us. A Messerschmitt dives straight at them. Harris jerks the yoke left, the bomber rolling sluggishly. The fighter's burst shatters the right window, spraying glass across Reed's arm. Blood blossoms instantly through his sleeve. Skipper, you hit? Just a scratch, he lies. They level out again. Below, a fortress explodes, just gone, a blossom of flame and smoke where 12 men used to be. Another spirals down, trailing fire. Parachutes bloom too low, too late. Reed's jaw tightens. Stay in formation. We lose each other. We're dead. He looks left. 2 bombers still there. Looks right. Only 1 remains. In minutes, half the group has vanished. Inside Hell's Angel, the heat and cold fight each other. The metal skin glows from gunfire, yet ice forms around every crack. Oxygen lines hiss like snakes. The navigator's pencil floats from his hand as the plane jerks violently. Flak coming up, Harris shouts. Black bursts pepper the air, perfectly timed. 1 explodes beneath them, tossing the fortress upward. Another shreds the belly. A smell of burning insulation fills the cabin. Number 3 engine smoking! Feather it, Reed shouts. Don't lose altitude! Harris fights the controls. The plane lurches, shudders, but holds. Somehow it holds. At the waist guns, Davis screams over the noise. They're swarming us. 10, maybe more. Cole doesn't answer. His gun belts jammed 20 minutes ago, and he's been reloading non-stop, hands bleeding. 1 fighter gets too close. He can see the pilot's face through the canopy, calm, expressionless, almost curious. Then the 50 cals roar, and the fighter bursts apart, spinning away in a fireball that leaves only black smoke. Cole laughs breathlessly. That's for Red 6. Keep firing, Davis yells. They're not done. The next burst of tracers slices through the compartment. Cole jerks once and slumps forward, blood dark against the frost. Davis turns him over, screaming his name, but the intercom crackles to life. Waist gunner, report! Davis swallows hard. Cole's gone, Skipper. Silence. Then Reed's voice, steady. Keep us flying. Minutes blur into hours. Every second feels stolen. They're far past Aachen now, deeper into enemy territory than any fortress should survive. The bomb bay is riddled with holes. One hydraulic line leaks across the floor like a red vein. The radio operator tries to send a signal but can only produce static. Navigation's out, Adams calls. Reed frowns. Then we stay with the group. If there's still a group. He peers through the haze. The sky looks empty except for black smoke and falling debris. Then, faintly, he spots a few silver shapes ahead. 2 other fortresses limping like wounded birds. He pushes the throttle. Let's catch them. They fly through another wave of fighters. Reed's bullets are nearly gone. The gunners count every round now. One engine burns. Another coughs black smoke. But Hell's Angel refuses to fall. The crew calls her by name now, whispering it between breaths as if the plane can hear. When the attack finally breaks off, the silence feels unreal. Only the hum of the remaining engines and the hiss of air through bullet holes. The bombers have reached the target zone. Far below, a city burns under a blanket of flak. Reed looks down at the devastation and wonders how much longer they can stay in the sky. Navigator, he says quietly. How many miles to home? Adams checks the map, his hand trembling. About 500. Reed exhales, eyes on the horizon. Then we'll give them 500 miles of hell. The intercom crackles one last time. Lawson in the tail. Skipper, I think they're regrouping. Reed doesn't look back. He adjusts the throttle, blood drying on his glove. Then let's remind them, he says, why this ship's called a fortress. He pushes forward, straight into the next wave of fighters. The engines roar again, defying reason, defying gravity, defying death. The men brace for another storm, unaware they've already become a legend. The sky over Germany is no longer a battlefield. It's a furnace. Smoke, fire, and broken wings hang in the air like ash. What was once a formation of 200 bombers is now a trail of ghosts. Every mile east feels heavier than the last. Every minute stolen from death. Inside Hell's Angel, the temperature has dropped below freezing. Frost clings to the gun barrels, the floor slick with blood and oil. The plane moans with each turn, as if the metal itself can feel pain. Captain Daniel Reed steadies the yoke with his good hand. His left sleeve is soaked red, but there's no time to think about it. Navigator, he calls through the intercom, voice rough. Confirm our position. Adams answers, breath short. We're closing in on Schweinfurt, but... Sir, we've lost half the group. Reed doesn't reply. He already knows. The sky tells the story. Empty gaps where fortresses should be. Stay focused, he says. We still have a job to finish. Below them, the ground bristles with flak. Every burst rocks the plane like a sledgehammer. Shrapnel slashes through the fuselage, cutting wires and oxygen lines. Sparks rain from the ceiling. Skipper, hydraulics are leaking again, Harris yells, kicking the pump. Bypass it, we're not turning around. Another explosion shakes the tail. Lawson's voice bursts through the intercom, strained and ragged. They hit us, sir! The right stabilizer's gone! Can you keep her level? I'll try! Then the next wave arrives. Focke-Wulfs dive through the smoke. Engines screaming, guns flashing in the sunlight. They're faster, hungrier now. The air becomes a wall of fire. Hell's Angel rocks violently as rounds tear through the skin of the aircraft. A hole the size of a football opens in the right wing. The sound inside is deafening. Wind shrieking, bullets hammering metal, men shouting prayers between bursts of gunfire. O'Brien fires until the barrels glow orange. The smell of burnt gunpowder fills the cockpit. He hits one fighter, then another. Pieces of debris rain past the window, spinning like falling leaves. Top turret out of ammo, O'Brien shouts. Then grab a sidearm if you have to, Reed yells back. We're not going down yet. One of the German fighters breaks formation, diving in low for a frontal pass. Reed watches it come straight at them, close, closer, until he can see the black cross on its wings. He doesn't blink. Brace! The fighter opens fire. Tracers rake the nose, punching through glass. The co-pilot, Harris, jerks back, hit in the shoulder. The control wheel spins free. The B-17 lurches downward, smoke pouring from the engines. Number 2's on fire, Adams shouts. Feather it! Reed grips the controls with both hands, ignoring the pain. Put it out! He kicks the rudder, leveling the plane. The burning engine sputters, then dies. The fire fades to smoke. They're still flying. The waist gun compartment is chaos. Davis drags Cole's body away from the gun mount, his face blank. He reloads and fires without thought, every movement mechanical. Another wave of fighters dives past the tail, and he catches one in his sights. His bullets cut across the cockpit. The German pilot never has time to react. The fighter disintegrates, pieces spinning past the window. The explosion lights the clouds orange. Lawson's voice comes through, trembling. "Good hit, Davis, but we've got more coming." Davis reloads, fingers raw and bleeding. "Let them come." Reed glances at the instrument panel. Fuel low, hydraulics bleeding, cabin pressure gone. The fortress should have fallen apart miles ago, but it hasn't. Every system has a backup. Every line doubled. Every surface reinforced. The engineers who built it knew what these men would face. He remembers what his instructor once said. The B-17 doesn't just fly, it endures. And right now, endurance is all they have left. Over the target, the bomb bay doors refuse to open. Reed curses, slamming his fist against the release lever. "Manual override!" Adams climbs down, wrench in hand, smoke burning his eyes. He pulls the lever by force. The doors creak, jam halfway, then snap open. "Bombs away!" he shouts. 12 half-ton payloads fall into the black smoke below. The city shudders. Factories vanish beneath clouds of dust and fire. Even from 20,000 feet, the explosions feel close. "Mission complete!" Adams gasps. Reed nods. "Now let's live long enough to report it." They turn west, limping, half dead. The sky is eerily quiet. No radio chatter, no escorts, just the whisper of air through holes in the fuselage. For a moment, Reed dares to believe they might make it home. Then Lawson's voice breaks through again. "Skipper, they're coming. Whole squadrons, maybe 100. Reed closes his eyes, then opens them again. The horizon ahead is black with shapes, fighters, hundreds of them, climbing fast. He adjusts the oxygen mask, checks the throttles, and mutters under his breath. "All right, girl, one more round." The gunners ready their weapons, hands shaking but steady. Somewhere behind him, the co-pilot whispers, "How many times can one plane survive?" Reed stares through the shattered glass, watching the first enemy dive. "As many times as it takes," he answers. The first tracers flash past the cockpit. The air fills with the roar of engines and the hammer of guns. And Hell's Angel, bleeding, broken, and burning, turns into the storm once more, still flying, still fighting, still unkillable. Afternoon over Schweinfurt, the sun burns behind a veil of smoke and tracer fire. The sky is no longer blue. It's red, pulsing with heat, fire, and the dying glow of engines. What remains of the American formation crawls through the air like a wounded animal, its path marked by black smoke and drifting debris. Captain Daniel Reed's bomber, Hell's Angel, still flies, though no one understands how. 3 engines cough black soot, the 4th barely holding. The wings look shredded, the fuselage riddled with holes. But the crew refuses to quit. Inside, the oxygen is almost gone. The air is bitter cold, sharp enough to cut the lungs. Harris sits slumped in his seat, pale and sweating from the wound in his shoulder. The bandage around his arm is soaked through, but he keeps his hand on the throttle. "Hold her steady," Reed says. "Steady as she gets," Harris mutters, forcing a smile. Behind them, the noise is relentless. The clatter of guns, the metallic shriek of bullets slicing through aluminum. The waist compartment smells of smoke and blood. Sergeant Davis reloads his gun for what feels like the 100th time. His gloves are stiff with frost and gunpowder. The radio operator, Corporal Kent, fights with the transmitter. "Still no signal, sir. The antenna's gone." Reed doesn't answer. There's no one left to call. They're deep over enemy territory now, 30 minutes past the target. The bomb bay is empty, but the Luftwaffe doesn't care. To them, the mission isn't over until no fortresses are left in the sky. Lawson's voice crackles through the intercom. "Skipper, I count at least 20 fighters closing from 6 o'clock low." Reed turns his head, squinting through the shattered glass. The horizon behind them is alive, black dots climbing through smoke, closing fast. "All right, boys," he says, voice steady. "This is it. Hold the line." The first wave hits them in seconds. Machine guns chatter, a rhythm of death. Tracer lines crisscross the sky, orange against the smoke. The tail erupts in sparks. Lawson fires back, short bursts, disciplined and precise. 2 enemy planes burst apart in flame, but there are too many. "Tail guns jammed," Lawson shouts. Fix it, Reed orders. I'm trying, but a blast cuts his words short. The intercom fills with static, then silence. Harris looks at Reed. Neither man speaks. They already know. The plane shakes violently. A fighter tears across their flank, bullets ripping through the fuselage. Metal screams. Oxygen lines burst. The pressure drops instantly. Reed's mask frosts over as he gasps for air. Navigator, you still with me? Adams answers faintly. Here, sir, barely. Then get me a heading west. We're going home. Home? Adams laughs weakly. If she still has wings. Reed glances at the gauges. One fuel tank empty, two leaking, hydraulics failing. Still, the Fortress doesn't quit. She's got wings, he says. That's enough. In the waste compartment, Davis fights alone. Every window is shattered, the cold tearing at his face. He fires until the barrels glow red. Two more fighters go down. Then something slams into the side of the plane. He's thrown backward, hitting the floor hard. For a second, he can't hear anything, only a deep ringing in his ears. When his vision clears, he sees daylight where the wall used to be. The right side of the fuselage is gone, peeled open like paper. Wind howls through the gap, sucking everything toward the sky. Davis crawls forward, grabs the nearest belt, and hooks it to the frame. He laughs breathlessly, half crazed. You'll have to try harder than that. He drags himself to the gun again, still firing. Reed glances back down the aisle. Smoke fills the plane now, thick and bitter. He can't tell who's alive anymore, only movement, shadows, flashes of fire. Harris, he says quietly, how many engines left? 2.5? Reed nods. That'll do. They dive through the clouds. For a moment, the noise fades. All that's left is the steady drone of what's still working, a sound like a heartbeat refusing to stop. Below them, the ground burns. Cities, rivers, roads, all blurred into a single sheet of fire. Flak bursts flash beneath the clouds, climbing to meet them. Jesus, Harris whispers, we're flying through hell. Yeah, Reed says, and hell's losing. A final explosion rocks the plane. The right wing dips, threatening to tear away. The altimeter spins. The cockpit fills with smoke. Reed wrestles the controls, his muscles screaming. Pull her up, Harris shouts. I'm trying. For a moment, everything slows. The sound, the motion, the fear. The Fortress trembles, groans, then levels. They're still flying. Barely. Navigator, Reed calls. What's our heading? Adams replies, voice faint but steady. West, straight for the channel. Reed exhales, eyes on the horizon. Good. Let's see if she can make it that far. Behind them, the sky glows red. The smoke rising like a funeral pyre for every man who didn't make it. The German fighters peel away, low on fuel. Their job done. The Fortress drifts alone now, broken and bleeding, a single silver speck against the dying light. Inside, the surviving crew sits in silence. No one talks. No one prays. They've used every prayer they had. Only the engines speak, their rhythm uneven but determined. Reed rests his head back against the seat. The sunset fills the cockpit, painting everything gold. He whispers to himself, voice barely audible through the static. Still flying, and Hell's Angel, torn, scorched, and unholy in its endurance, pushes on toward the west, proof that sometimes faith isn't about belief. It's about refusing to fall. Dusk settles over the wreckage of the mission. The sun dips behind the blackened clouds, turning the horizon to blood and fire. What's left of the bomber group drifts westward in fragments, singed, limping shadows crawling toward home. At the center of it all, Hell's Angel still flies. No one understands why. The wings look like lace, the tail shredded, two engines coughing smoke in uneven rhythm. Holes run through the fuselage big enough to crawl through, but somehow the Fortress refuses to die. Captain Daniel Reed can barely see through the cracked windshield. His goggles are frozen with frost on the inside. The smell of burnt hydraulic fluid and scorched insulation fills the cockpit. Navigator, he says, voice dry, give me distance. Adams, his face ghost pale under the flickering map light, replies, 300 miles to the channel, skipper, maybe less. Maybe, Reed mutters, hands locked on the yoke. We'll take maybe. Down in the waste compartment, Sergeant Davis fights to keep the remaining guns running. He's alone now. His partner Cole lies beneath a tarp, motionless. The oxygen tank leaks in slow hisses that sound like whispering ghosts. Every bump shakes the loose panels and sends shivers through the frame. He looks out the jagged hole where the fuselage used to be. The wind tears through, cold enough to freeze tears before they fall. Behind them, the last glow of Schweinfurt still burns, a distant inferno fading into night. Davis whispers to himself, "Still flying, you bastard, still flying!" Then he loads another belt of ammunition. Hours earlier, the engineers who designed this plane sat in warm offices, running calculations by lamplight. They had predicted what these men now live. Every control line duplicated, every fuel system doubled, every vital wire hidden behind armor. A fortress could lose half its guts and still fly. That's what made it different. The Germans called it Viermotoriger Albtraum, the four-engine nightmare. To its pilots, it was more than steel. It was faith, forged into metal. The radio operator, Kent, tries again to reach home base. He taps the key until his fingers bleed. "This is Hell's Angel B-17, outbound from Schweinfurt. Crew wounded, multiple engines out." Static answers him. Then a faint voice crackles through, distant but real. "Hell's Angel, this is Alconbury Control. Copy your call. You're..." The signal breaks, hisses, returns. "You're alone up there. God help you." Kent laughs bitterly. "We already asked him." The night deepens. The stars appear, sharp and cold. Frost creeps along the glass. Reed fights to stay awake. His left arm throbs from the wound. His vision blurs. Beside him, Harris drifts in and out of consciousness. His lips are blue. "We're gonna make it, Danny," he mutters. Reed doesn't answer. He's counting the engine sounds. One steady, one dying, one barely alive. 3 heartbeats, fading. He presses his headset tighter. "Tail, you still with me?" No response. "Lawson?" Only the hum of the engines and the rattle of loose panels. He exhales slowly, eyes on the instruments. "Hold together, girl. Just hold together." Down below, a German radar operator watches a single blip moving across his screen. He calls to his commander. "Herr Major, 1 bomber still airborne." The officer frowns. "Alone? Ja, heading west." The major leans over the display. "At this hour? With that damage?" He shakes his head. "Let it go. It's earned its sky." 30 minutes later, the moonlight glints off the English Channel. Reed can't believe it. "We're there," Adam says, half laughing, half crying. "We actually made it." Reed nods slowly. "Let's see if she'll land." But as he lowers the landing gear, nothing happens. The hydraulics are dead. He pounds the panel. "Come on, don't quit now." Harris forces a grin. "We can belly her in." Reed nods. "Yeah, if the wings stay on." He calls back through the intercom, though there's no one left to hear. "Brace for impact." The airfield lights at Alconbury flicker faintly in the dark. Ground crews hear the drone first, a single engine coughing in the distance. Then they see it. A black silhouette limping out of the night, trailing smoke and sparks. "Good God," one mechanic whispers. "That can't still be flying." The control tower scrambles to clear the runway. Flare guns shoot into the sky. Fire trucks roll into position. Reed lines up with the faint lights, heart hammering. "Here we go," he says quietly. The fortress touches down hard. Metal screams. Sparks burst beneath the belly. The wing scrapes the runway, sending a shower of fire behind them. The landing gear never drops, but the plane slides straight and true, stubborn to the end. When it finally stops, silence. Thick, absolute silence. For a long time, no one moves. The engines tick as they cool. Smoke seeps from the seams. Then Reed opens the hatch and climbs out into the cold night. The ground crew rushes forward, flashlights sweeping across the wreck. "Jesus, Captain, we thought you were gone!" Reed glances back at the plane. Holes everywhere. One wing bent, half the tail missing. And yet, she's upright. She's home. He removes his cap, stares at the battered fuselage, and says quietly, "She got us here. All the way." A mechanic runs a hand along the riddled metal. "You didn't fly this plane," he murmurs. "It carried you." Reed nods. "Yeah, she always does." The men stand there in silence, watching steam rise from the bullet holes, the smell of oil and iron hanging in the night. The unbreakable machine has earned her name. The moonlight glows faintly over the English Channel, casting long silver paths across the water. Inside Hell's Angel, the silence feels unnatural. The guns are quiet. The engines drone in broken rhythm, coughing smoke into the night. They've made it out of Germany. Barely. Captain Daniel Reed stares ahead, eyes hollow behind cracked goggles. His fingers ache from gripping the yoke for hours. The blood on his sleeve has dried stiff. Every nerve in his body screams for rest, but he can't stop. Not yet. Navigator, he murmurs, voice faint. Distance to base? Adams glances at his map, tracing the coastline by flashlight. 70 miles, maybe 80. Wind's against us. Reed nods. Then we'll crawl if we have to. The radio operator taps his headset, trying again to reach Alconbury. This is Hell's Angel, returning from Schweinfurt. We have wounded, heavy damage, requesting landing clearance. Static answers him. Then, faintly, a voice. Hell's Angel, Alconbury Control. You're still alive? Barely, Kent mutters. Keep heading west, we'll light the runway. He grins weakly. Copy that. Behind them, the fortress breathes like a wounded animal. The floor is slick with oil and blood. Bullet holes whistle in the thin air. Davis, the last gunner still conscious, sits beside the waist gun, eyes closed, head resting against the frozen metal. The tail section is silent now. Lawson's gun is still aimed at the horizon, empty. The seat beside it is empty too. His gloves are frozen to the handles. Reed doesn't look back anymore. He can't afford to. At 10,000 feet, flak bursts flash over the coastline. German anti-air still waits, desperate, firing blindly into the night. Black puffs explode around the fortress, rocking the frame. Harris, pale and sweating, shouts over the noise. You think they'd give up already? Reed keeps his eyes forward. They know we're worth it. A shell explodes close, tearing another hole through the wing. The plane drops sharply. Hold her! I'm trying! Harris grips the throttle with his good arm. The fortress groans but steadies. For a few seconds, there's only silence again. Then Reed exhales, almost laughing. She's tougher than any of us. Miles away, a German pilot flying a night interceptor spots the lone bomber limping west. He climbs higher, eyes narrowing behind the glass. One B-17, crippled, alone. An easy kill. He flips the safety off his guns, and then hesitates. Through his scope, he sees the massive holes in the fuselage, the flames flickering inside, the crew working with bare hands to keep it airborne. He lowers his weapon. Instead of attacking, he flies alongside for a moment, just long enough for Reed to see him. Two pilots, enemies, locked eyes through the frozen glass. The German raises a gloved hand in salute. Then he rolls away, disappearing into the darkness. Harris exhales. Did that just happen? Reed nods slowly. Yeah, maybe even they're done with this war. At 5,000 feet, the coast of England finally appears, black cliffs under a pale moon. Adams lets out a shaky laugh. Home. I think I forgot what that looks like. The engines wheeze. One sputters out completely, the propeller windmilling uselessly. Reed adjusts the trim, fighting to keep level. We'll make it. Even on two? Even on one if we have to. The radio crackles again. Hell's Angel, we've got you on radar. You're clear to approach. Do you have gear down? Reed glances at the indicator. Nothing. Negative. Gear's dead. Copy. Prepare for belly landing. He smirks. Already did one of those. The runway lights shine ahead. A thin line of gold cutting through the darkness. Ground crews wait, fire trucks lined along the edge. They've heard the stories all day. The massacre over Schweinfurt, the bombers that never came back. No one expects this one to make it home. Reed lines up the approach. Brace, he yells. Everyone hang on. The fortress descends fast. The air screams past the shattered glass. At the last second, he flattens the pitch. Impact. Metal screams against concrete. Sparks explode under the belly. The wing scrapes, sending a shower of flame behind them. The plane skids for what feels like forever, then jerks violently to a stop. For a moment, no one moves. The world goes quiet. Adams is the first to speak. We're down. Harris laughs weakly. You call that a landing? Reed shuts off the remaining engines. The silence feels holy. He unbuckles, climbs out through the hatch. The cold night air hits his face like a baptism. Ground crews run toward him, their flashlights cutting through the smoke. Dear God, one mechanic whispers. How are you even standing? Reed looks back at his ship. The once proud silver skin is blackened and torn. The tail is half gone, the wings riddled with holes, the engine's dead. But she's home. He touches the side of the fuselage, hand trembling. "She brought us back," he murmurs. "All the way." Hours later, floodlights surround the wreck. Officers and engineers gather, counting holes, tracing the path of bullets. They stop when they reach one figure. Reed, still standing beside his plane, jacket torn, eyes fixed on the horizon. 300 enemy fighters, someone says quietly, and this one came home. Reed hears them but doesn't turn. His voice is low, almost lost in the wind. She was never just metal. She wanted to live. He glances once more at the scarred wing and the faint smoking engines. Then he walks away, leaving the plane in the cold light of dawn. The unkillable fortress that had flown through hell and returned with fire still burning in its heart. Morning breaks over Alconbury airfield, pale and cold. The fog rolls low across the grass, thick as smoke, carrying the faint scent of fuel and burnt metal. The sun has barely risen, yet the base is already awake. Mechanics, medics, and officers crowd near the runway, staring at the wreck that sits like a sleeping giant among them. Hell's Angel. They'd heard the reports through the night. Most of the Schweinfurt mission hadn't returned. Entire squadrons lost. But this one did. Captain Daniel Reed stands beside the bomber, his flight jacket torn and his hands black with oil. His face is hollow, his voice gone. He hasn't slept. He hasn't even taken off his oxygen mask until now. He just keeps staring at his plane, the miracle that shouldn't exist. "Captain," a young mechanic says quietly, approaching him, "we counted over 1,000 bullet holes." Reed glances up. "Only 1,000? The man doesn't know how to answer. The inspection starts at sunrise. Engineers crawl across the wings, counting damage like coroners at a crime scene. The notes they take sound impossible. Left wing, 27 holes. Right wing, 78. Tail section, shredded. Hydraulic lines, severed. Control cables, untouched. Somehow, the bullets had found every inch of the fortress except the ones that mattered most. Lieutenant Harris limps out from the medic's tent, his arm in a sling. "They said we should have exploded mid-air. Fuel tanks were hit. Twice." Reed nods slowly. "I know. I saw the tracers." Harris exhales, shaking his head. "And yet, here we are." "Yeah," Reed says quietly. "Here we are." Inside the bomber, the damage is worse than anyone imagined. The cockpit is a mess of broken glass and twisted metal. Blood stains the floor near the navigator's table. The top turret hangs at an angle, one of its barrels melted. And yet somehow, the instruments still glow faintly, as if the plane refuses to let go. Reed climbs inside, ignoring the medics telling him to rest. He runs his hand along the cold steel of the controls, tracing every dent, every scorch mark. The seat creaks under his weight. He closes his eyes. For a moment, he can still hear the guns, the screams, the engines tearing themselves apart. He whispers, "You did it, girl. You got us home." Behind him, Davis steps in. His face is gaunt, eyes sunken, hands trembling. "Sir, Lawson's gone. So's Cole. Kent's with the medics. They don't think he'll make it." Reed doesn't turn. "How many did we start with?" 10. "And how many are still breathing?" Davis swallows hard. 5. Reed nods slowly. "Then she saved half of us. That's more than I expected." Outside, the other crews gather around Hell's Angel. Men who flew different bombers, men who lost everything, stand in silence. They've seen fortresses come home on fire before. They've seen wrecks limping over the coast, barely held together by will. But never like this. A young gunner from another crew walks up, eyes wide. "Sir, we thought you were ghosts." Reed smirks faintly. "Maybe we are." The crowd grows. Someone starts taking photos. Someone else whispers, "They said 300 fighters hit them." 300? Another man repeats, stunned. "And she still came back?" The legend spreads before their eyes, faster than smoke, louder than engines. By noon, the news reaches command. Officers arrive from London, notebooks in hand. They inspect the bomber from nose to tail, snapping photos, taking measurements. One colonel shakes his head in disbelief. "This plane shouldn't exist. The tail's been shot clean through." Reed answers quietly, "She didn't know that." The colonel glances up, studying him. "You realize you've just given the men something to believe in." Reed's voice is hoarse but steady. "Good. They need it." He looks toward the other hangars, toward the empty spaces where bombers should have stood. Too many gone. Too many faces he'll never see again. If one machine, one battered, blood-soaked fortress can make it back, Maybe others will too. That evening, the medics finally convince Reed to rest. But before he leaves, he walks one last time around the bomber. The sunlight hits the torn fuselage, turning the bullet holes into tiny glints of gold. He notices a single streak of paint on the nose art. The angel's wing, half burned away but still there. He smiles faintly. You earned your name, sweetheart. The mechanics will spend weeks repairing her, but Reed knows it doesn't matter. The war will ask for her again, and she'll answer, because that's what the fortress was built for. As he walks toward the barracks, he hears one of the ground crew whisper behind him, "They say she flew through 300 fighters and didn't fall." Another voice answers softly, "Then maybe angels really do fly on metal wings." Later in his bunk, Reed opens his flight log. His hand shakes as he writes the final line of the mission report. October 14th, 1943, Schweinfurt. Engaged by approximately 300 enemy aircraft. Plane heavily damaged, crew wounded. Mission complete, returned safely. He sets the pencil down, exhales, and closes his eyes. The engines still echo in his head, that deep, rhythmic sound that feels more alive than any heartbeat. The last thought before sleep takes him is not of war or death or even survival. It's of the sky, red, burning, endless, and the sound of a plane that refused to fall. The Hell's Angel has come home, and the legend of the flying fortress has just begun. Days pass, and the story spreads like wildfire. Every base in England, from Alconbury to Bassingbourn, hums with one name, Hell's Angel. Pilots repeat it in mess halls. Mechanics whisper it over engines. Even the officers who never believe in miracles can't deny what they've seen. A machine that came back from hell when every law of physics said it shouldn't. The photos make it official. Black and white prints pinned on bulletin boards across Europe. A B-17 riddled with holes, tail nearly gone, wings shredded, yet sitting proud on the tarmac like a monument. In the cockpit, a single bullet hole rests inches from the pilot's seat. Another tore through the radio, leaving the operator alive only by chance. Under one photo, someone scrawls a line in pencil. She didn't fly, she survived. Captain Daniel Reed can't walk across the airfield without being stopped. Crewmen salute him like a ghost. Ground chiefs call him the man who flew through 300 fighters. He hates it. He sits on a crate beside the hangar, cigarette burning between his fingers. The morning mist curls around him, soft and gray. Harris joins him, arm still in a sling. You know, they're saying command wants to turn you into a poster. Reed exhales smoke. I'm not a story, Harris. Too late, Harris says with a tired smile. You already are. They sit in silence for a while, watching the planes line up for another mission. Fresh crews, shiny bombers, new names painted on their noses. Lucky Lady, Iron Maiden, Heaven Sent. Most of them won't last a month. The engineers finish patching Hell's Angel. They replace the right wing and rivet over 1,000 holes. When they're done, the plane looks ready again, but different. The scars remain beneath the paint, faint outlines where bullets once passed through. Mechanics touch the metal like they're touching something holy. One of them, a kid barely 20, runs a hand along the fuselage. She's proof we can make it home, he whispers. Reed overhears him. He doesn't correct him. That night, under a pale half-moon, the captain walks to the hangar alone. The smell of fuel and steel fills the quiet. He climbs the ladder, steps into the cockpit, and sits in his seat. The instruments are off, the cabin dark. But for a moment, he feels the vibration of engines that aren't running, as if the fortress itself remembers. He lays a hand on the yoke. You did what no man could, he murmurs. You carried us through death. For the first time since the mission, he lets himself breathe. Across the channel, the Germans can't believe the reports. Their pilots swear they saw a B-17 shot to pieces, yet still flying. A major in Bremen studies a captured photo. Impossible, he says. No aircraft could take that much damage. But he keeps staring anyway, as though the answer might be hiding inside the bullet holes. To them, it becomes something else. Der unzerstörbare Engel, the indestructible angel. Weeks later, Hell's Angel flies again. The new crew checks her name painted under the cockpit. The letters have been repainted, sharper now, cleaner, but the red burn marks along the wing remain. The pilot, a young lieutenant fresh from Kansas, touches the metal before takeoff. Bring us back like you did for him, he whispers. She does. Mission after mission, she returns, limping, smoking, torn, but alive. The crew starts saying she can't be shot down because she already met death once and said no. Meanwhile, Reed receives orders to train new pilots. He spends his days lecturing about formation, about fuel ratios, about survival. But what the recruits really want to hear is her story. "Sir," one asks, "how did she stay in the air?" Reed looks at the floor for a moment, then answers, "Because we believed she would." They laugh softly, thinking it's a joke. He doesn't. By winter, the legend becomes official. A correspondent from Stars and Stripes visits the base, writes an article titled "The Angel That Wouldn't Fall." He interviews the crew, takes photos, records every scar on the plane. When the story is published, it travels faster than any bomber. Across Europe, across the Atlantic, even to families in small American towns waiting for news. Mothers read it and whisper, "Maybe my boy's flying one like that." Children cut out the pictures and pin them to their walls. Factories hang the article above the assembly lines. Workers read the headline and build faster. The angel that wouldn't fall. It becomes more than a name. It becomes a promise. Spring 1944. The tide of the air war has turned. Mustangs now escort the bombers all the way to Berlin. The Luftwaffe grows weaker with every passing day. But every time the formations rise into the sky, the men look for Hell's Angel. If she's there, they believe they'll make it back. Reed watches her take off one last time before he's transferred home. The engines thunder, dust rising behind her. She climbs gracefully into the dawn, silver against the red horizon. Harris stands beside him, smiling. "She's flying again." Reed nods. That's what she does. Years later, after the war ends, the stories still circle. At reunions, in bars, in history books. Pilots who never saw her swear they heard her engines once. Mechanics claim she saved them by luck. Historians argue whether she should have fallen. But those who were there, those who saw her climb out of that blood-red sky, know the truth. Some machines are more than metal. Some carry the will of every man who refused to quit. The B-17 Hell's Angel wasn't built to win wars. She was